Riding Hell for Leather. Chapter 4. They slipped out before the column was geared up, two shadows ahead of the dust. The road north ran between snake fence pasture and strips of corn not yet much over knee-high, the stalks rattling dry in the heat. Meadowlarks arrowed up and away. A fox slunk off a stone fence and vanished into sumac. Frog's ears worked lazily, as if he owned the lane. Gypsy held a cat-footed jog, head low, breath easy after her morning graze. "Stay to the verge," Calder said. "Hoofprints on hard ground make too clean a story." Mo nudged Frog into the grass strip, where the dew had already burned off. "Copy your lead," he said, eyes on the ditch line. "Tell me what you want. 2 riders came through here at first light. One on a big-footed, unshod horse, one on a lighter horse dragging its left toe. Both turned north again." "Messengers?" Calder asked. "Likely local militia," Mo said. He pointed with his chin. "See the scuff on that shale? Big-boned country plow horse and the other dragging a toe." They let the road go and cut across a meadow broken by a swale of cattails. The ground there held the morning close. Mo slid down, palmed the mud, and lifted his hand. A damp print held the shape of a brogan boot, and the butt print of a rifle stock showed clear. They let the silence work a mile, the rhythm of hoofbeats speaking what words didn't need to. Mo glanced sideways, the corner of his mouth tight but amused. "If Morgan only knew how much sense you pack into one look, he'd make you general." "Don't curse me like that," Calder said dryly. "I'd rather ride with one man I trust than command a brigade I don't." The 2 horses moved together, cutting the first curve of the road, the country stretching wide before them. Whatever lay waiting up ahead, trap or glory, they would see it first, and together they'd decide how to tell the truth of it. "Foot traffic," Mo said. 5, 6 men. Not farm boys hauling milk. See the spacing? They kept interval. Calder scanned the ridgeline to the east. A telegraph line rode the slope, the wire humming faintly. 50 yards on, the line dipped. 2 insulators hung at odd angles. "Wires cut ahead," Calder said. "Our welcome party don't want company." "North edge of Corydon's pickets," Mo guessed. He remounted, turned Frog into a thin track under bur oaks, and said in easy trot, "If they've posted men at the bridge, we'll know soon enough." They rode in silence a quarter mile, letting the country talk. Where the track crossed a shallow creek, a crude plank bridge had been dragged into place, fresh saw marks, wet chips left like breadcrumbs. Hoof scrapes on the far bank showed hesitations, then a crowding of prints. "Some got jittery coming up," Calder said. "New hands." "Home guard," Mo said. "Not regulars, but they'll shoot as straight as any man defending his own porch." They moved on. The air smelled of ironweed and river clay baked to powder. Horseflies buzzed Gypsy's flanks. Calder flicked them off absently and angled for a low knob that looked down toward the pike. They dismounted below the crest, looped reins, and crawled the last yards on their bellies, pushing grass down with their forearms. Below, the road bent like an elbow toward a shallow dip where a rail fence had been knocked down and rebuilt higher, rails doubled. On the far side of the dip, logs and cordwood had been thrown into a hasty breastwork across a slight rise. 2 men in faded blue coats, no uniforms matching, stood behind it. One had a hunting rifle laid across the rails, sighting at nothing in particular. Farther back, a squat shape on wagon wheels crouched behind a hedgerow. "Gun," Calder said softly. "Not full-sized. Probably a 4 or 6-pounder borrowed off some cavalry unit." "Or one of those little mountain howitzers the militia love," Mo said. "Either way, it'll bark." Closer to the fence, 4 more men worked shovels, digging a shallow scrape behind the cordwood. The pile of spoil was on the wrong side. "They're green," Calder said, "putting spoil where it gives the shooter away." Mo counted heads. 8 in sight, not including whoever's on that piece. Figure 2 more out of view. Call it a dozen. Calder nodded. "And they mean to make us pay for the bend in the road." "We can slip them," Mo offered, eyes still moving. "Cut west through those sycamores, ride the creek bed, come up behind that hedgerow. Or skip them altogether, cross a mile north where the banks ease." Mo watched him think. "General's going to want them out of the road," he said, "so the column looks strong, so the town hears the story he wants told." "That's the puzzle," Calder said quietly. "We clear this bend, we buy a headline and spend horses we don't have. Or," Mo said, "we leave the headline and keep our mounts." "Your call, boss." Calder's mouth twitched. Don't call me that. I don't own anything but the ground under my feet and this mare's goodwill. Mo's eyes warmed just a fraction. Fair enough. They slid back from the crest, mounted, and let the horses breathe while they spoke low. If Morgan insists on a push, Calder said, we give him the lay. A dozen visible, a pop gun in the hedgerow, green spoil piled wrong. He'll think it's easy. It is easy, if we're patient, Mo said. Send skirmishers on foot through that willow strip. Make them think we're heavier left, then take 3 files right and unhinge the fence. No need to ride into a crossfire. Calder scratched Gypsy under the mane, thinking. Or we take your first offer, run the creek bed, and let them shout at an empty road while we're already past. Leaves them alive to bite somebody else, Mo said. No judgment in it, just a weighing. Calder turned Gypsy's head a hair east and angled up another knoll to look farther down the pike. On this rise, the wind carried the faintest sound, metal on wood, a clatter, and then a shout. He held up 2 fingers. Mo listened too, eyes half-lidded. 2 wagons, Mo said, bringing up fence rails or kinfolk. Either way, they're getting busier. Calder exhaled. We send the truth back, all of it, and we add this. Best ground for a bypass is west by the sycamores. If Morgan wants the drum beat, he can have it, but we'll show him the quieter road. Who you want as runner? Neither of us, Calder said. We stay eyes. We'll take one of those boys we passed by the meadow, one who still has a horse under him. They backtracked, whistled low, and a lank scout eased from behind a cottonwood where he'd been pretending not to tail them. His saddle creaked, eyes bright with the courage of youth. You, Calder said, keeping the edge out of his voice. Take a message to the general. Yes, sir, the boy said, straightening. Calder dictated it clean. Militia strength, breastwork and peace, green spoil, wagons arriving, telegraph cut, best bypass west through sycamores and creek bed, got risk to mounts and men if taken head on. The boy repeated it without stumbling. Mo added, tell him the creek bed rides firm for half a mile, stone bottom, low banks, then turns to clay. If he wants the slip, he has to take it early. The boy nodded, heels ready. Calder caught his bridle a heartbeat longer. Don't embroider it. Don't sell it. Just tell it. Yes, sir. He spurred back the way he'd come, a small dust ghost swallowed by bigger dust. Calder and Mo sat a while in the hush that follows a decision not yet made by someone else. The sun bit harder, the heat set a shimmer on the pike. Down by the doubled fence, a man in a battered hat wiped his brow with his sleeve and leaned into his shovel again, piling dirt. Brave, Mo said softly. Or cornered, Calder answered. Difference matters, Mo asked. Calder took a breath, let it out slow. Not to the bullet. They eased the horses into the sycamore shade and followed the creek west, but hidden. The bed was stone, just like Mo said, flat slabs dappled with minnows where the water thinned to a skin. Frog stepped down like he'd done it 100 times. Gypsy picked her way light, ears pricked. They moved another quarter mile and found what Calder wanted, a shallow slide where a company could drop in without breaking ranks. He marked it in his mind, 2 leaning willows that made an arch, a gouge in the far bank like a boar's tusk. Here, he said. If he takes the slip, this is the mouth. Mo nodded, face unreadable. And if he doesn't? Calder looked back through the trees toward the bend in the pike where the flimsy breastwork waited. Then we make sure we're not the first into the teeth. Mo's mouth tipped at one corner. Practical. Alive, Calder said. I'm partial to it. They turned the horses, creek water whispering around fetlocks, and angled toward a low ridge where they could watch the road and still ghost back to meet the head of column when it came. Behind them, somewhere far, a bugle's faint call rose and fell, thin as a reed. The country held its breath. Damn, Calder muttered. Keep that thing quiet, Morgan. Calder slid a look at Mo. If it's the drumbeat, we'll leave our horses here and move up on their left flank. Mo patted Frog's neck once. Then we'll make a hole big enough even luck can find it. They settled to wait, 2 riders in green light, measuring a fight that hadn't started yet, and deciding, in their bones, how to keep their horses and their own selves alive when it did. Militia Henry Abbott's hands were raw where the shovel rubbed, the blistered skin weeping in the heat. He clenched tighter on the worn hickory handle anyway, because Captain Byerly was watching. 16, shoulders narrow, Henry had told his mother he was just carrying rails for the home guard. That was true enough, but now the rails were piled chest high and a squat iron cannon glared from behind them. "Keep at it," Byerly called, his gravelly voice cutting. "Dirt in front, not behind. Don't make a wall for the Rebs to sight on." Henry switched sides, his stomach hollow as the smell of powder drifted from the little mountain howitzer. The gun crew, men old enough to be his uncles, fussed and cursed as they seated it behind the hedgerow. None of them wore proper coats. Blue faded to gray, hats pulled low, belts cinched with farm buckles. They looked more like fence menders than soldiers. Byerly didn't. Harold Byerly had been born hard. Or maybe the border fights had made him that way. Rumor said he'd carried a musket at 12 when the Shawnee came raiding. His face was carved deep as an axe handle, lips set in a permanent scowl. At 63, he moved stiff but sure, every step deliberate. When he laid a hand on a boy's shoulder, it was like a yoke dropping in place. Firm, steady. Henry's pa said Byerly should have left the fighting to younger men. But there he was, standing like an old storm-blasted oak, eyes on the pike. "Captain?" Henry asked, breathless from digging. "You reckon they're really coming, Morgan's men?" Byerly squinted toward the south bend. "Son, they'll come sure enough with skirmishers 3 deep. Question's not if, but when. And when soon." Henry swallowed, sweat trickling into his mouth. He thought of his mother, apron pulled tight, eyes wet when he left that morning. He hadn't said goodbye proper. He told himself there'd be time later. The riflemen shifted behind the doubled fence, cradling their long hunting pieces. "Hell, half these men will scatter like quail at the first shot," Byerly cut him off sharp. "They'll stand and fire. Don't talk of running." Henry tried to plant himself firm like Byerly, but the truth was, his knees trembled. He'd never fired at a man. Rabbits, yes, he'd hunted with his pa's old smoothbore, but not men. The thought turned his stomach to ash. From the far slope, the telegraph lines sagged. The wires hung slack, insulators cracked where someone had cut them so the rebels couldn't use the line. They couldn't either. They were alone. Byerly saw it too and gave a grim nod. "No worry, son. You want 'em to come?" Byerly's eyes never left the road. "Listen, son, this is our land. Corydon's not 3 miles north. Your ma's house, my grandbabies, every field we ever planted, and a pack of raiders who'll burn, take, and laugh at your running? We stand because there ain't nowhere else to go." Henry shut his mouth. His hands burned on the shovel, but he dug harder, throwing spoil where Byerly wanted it. Every scrape of the blade felt like it cut his own skin. The little cannon crew finished seating their charge, swabbed and loaded. One man sighted down the trail with squinted eyes, as if imagining cavalry already in the dip. The riflemen adjusted, leaning elbows into the cordwood. Henry looked at them. Older men, some gray, some stooped, and realized he might be one of the youngest boys in the line. That thought made his throat ache. He told himself he'd stand no matter what. He wouldn't let Byerly see him run. The captain finally turned, his eyes on Henry. For a heartbeat, the boy thought he saw something almost kind there, like a crack in the bark. "Steady, son," Byerly said low. "Ain't no shame in fear. Shame's in letting fear rule your legs. You hold, you load, you fire. That's all there is. You'll do all right." Henry nodded, though his mouth was dry. A bugle call drifted faint through the trees, high and distant. The sound made the riflemen stiffen, shifting grips, a curse here and there. Restless men weren't made to wait. Byerly straightened, slow, but his voice steady as stone. "That's them. Mark your lanes, don't waste your powder, and remember, the first shot's ours. Make it count." Henry gripped his shovel tighter, then set it down. His heart hammered like the little howitzer's vent hole, ready to blow. He reached for his father's old smoothbore leaning against the rail. The wood was slick from years of sweat. He breathed once, twice, and lifted it to his shoulder. The pike lay empty still, shimmering in the heat. But the sound of hooves would come. Henry knew it now, as sure as his name was Henry Abbott. Calder and Moe waited in the sycamore shade until the head of column rolled into view. Morgan himself rode with the officers, dust on his hat brim, eyes sharp and restless. Calder eased Gypsy forward and gave his report. Breastwork across the bend, a dozen militia, 1 small piece of artillery, wagons arriving, telegraph cut. Moe added the ground, the creek bed slip, the arch of willows, the way around. Morgan listened, jaw working. Then he spat and shook his head. "We're not sneaking," he said flat. If I let a handful of farmers turn us, the papers will make us outwhipped before we cross the river. We'll dismount skirmishers and drive 'em out." Calder kept his face still. "It'll cost you, General. Them dirt farmers are dug in like badgers, and we can't tell how many there actually are." Morgan's eyes flashed, pride pricked. Horses can be bought, headlines can't. He snapped at his adjutant. "Form the men on foot, one brigade behind the other. Push 'em off that rise." Mo said nothing, but Calder felt the boys' glance, sharp and knowing. They pulled their mounts aside as the bugles gave the call. Henry Abbott's mouth went dry when the sound carried up the pike. Hoofbeats, then silence, then a bugle, closer now. He gripped his father's smoothbore and tried to remember Byerly's words, "Load, hold, fire." His hands shook as he poured powder, bit the cartridge, and rammed the ball down hard. The fence rattled under his elbows. Beside him, the older men crouched steady, rifles resting easy. Byerly walked the line slow, rifle in his left hand, voice like iron. "Wait till you see their hats. Don't waste powder on shadows." Henry's stomach turned. He could hear them now, whistles and branches snapping, the low mutter of men on foot. Not thundering cavalry, but lines of soldiers dismounted, pushing forward, careful as hunters. The first gray shape broke the dip, a man crouched low with a carbine. Another behind him, then more, spreading wide. Henry's finger found the trigger without his will. His chest felt hollow, like air had fled. "Steady!" Byerly barked. The howitzer cracked first, a boom that rattled Henry's teeth. Smoke billowed white across the fence line. He blinked, coughing. Then the rifleman fired. Sharp cracks sounded like wood choppers. Henry aimed at the first hat he saw. The world narrowed to the smoothbore's muzzle, the gray blur of a man on the pike, and the awful squeeze, then the kick of the old musket. Smoke and flame belched. He didn't know if he hit. He only knew his ears rang and his arms shook, and he was still on his feet. Byerly's voice cut through. "Load again, boys. They'll come on harder now." Henry fumbled for another cartridge, fingers clumsy, eyes stinging. He thought of his mother's face, then shoved the ball down the barrel. Around him, the older men reloaded in rhythm, jaws set. And on the pike below, Morgan's men kept coming. Smoke clung low in the bend, the air sharp with burned powder. Henry spat dust and rammed his rod down the barrel again. His ears rang with the popping crack of rifles. The gray line pressed closer through the haze. A man stumbled into the fence, musket leveled, and dropped screaming when Byerly's shot found him. The militia let out a ragged cheer, fear twisted into sound. Henry fired blind into the smoke, felt the kick slam his shoulder, and fumbled another load with shaking hands. "Hold your ground," Byerly roared, not even bothering to stay low as if bullets were rain. "Give them steel if they come over the breastworks." The little howitzer barked again, canister rattling down the pike like a hailstorm. Men cried out, tumbled back into the dust. The Confederates wavered, their carbines spitting but halting short of the breastwork. Henry saw them falter, men ducking behind the dip, some crawling back. For a heartbeat, the impossible hope rose in his chest. "We're holding them." "Load fast," he heard someone shout. "We got 'em on the run, boys." The volley came again, humming and angry. A rebel officer waved his hat. The bugle sounded the retreat. But the fire from the fence didn't let up. The line straggled back toward the bend. Henry gasped, lungs burning. He had fired 4 shots, maybe 5. His hands burned from the hot barrel, but he was still upright. For the moment, the road was theirs. Calder and Mo swung wide to the west, riding the creek until the ground pinched down to stone shelves. They moved easy, eyes cutting for any sign of reinforcements. Nothing stirred but crows and the restless hiss of cicadas. No blue columns, no militia wagons rolling down from Corydon. "Clear," Mo said at last, reining Frog back toward the pike. Calder nodded. "We're all right for now. Let's get back before Morgan's pride gets half the outfit killed." By the time they regained the main road, smoke already hung over the bend like a storm cloud. The sharp boom of the mountain piece echoed off the ridges, followed by the thinner rattle of rifles. Morgan's first push had gone in, and by the look of men pulling back, it had stalled. Morgan sat his horse near the head of column, jaw tight, hat brim low. When Calder gave the report, "No reinforcements west," the general grunted, already shaping his answer. "Then we split," Morgan said. 3 wings wide. I'll drive up the middle. They can't cover all 3. We'll squeeze them till they crack." Orders ran quick down the line. Men swung out right and left, carbines ready, moving into the timber. Calder and Moe fell in behind the western file, keeping to the shadows of the sycamores. Like wolves on a pen, Moe muttered. The militia fought hard at first. Calder saw them in flashes through the smoke. Men crouched behind rails, faces black with powder, the stubby howitzer bucking and spitting. The second volley staggered Morgan's center, but the wings kept moving. Carbines cracked from the trees, bullets chewing rails from the flanks. Calder watched one farmer drop his musket and throw up his hands, only to be shoved down by his own captain's arm. Byerly, old, immovable, stood at the heart of the line, shouting hoarse, urging his men to hold. But holding was a luxury they didn't have. With gray shapes closing from three sides, the breastwork bent. Some dropped rifles, clinging to the rails as if the wood itself could save them. Moe spat into the dust. They'll break. Not yet, Calder said. He saw the young ones, boys still firing blind into the smoke. Brave, foolish, doomed. Morgan's center gave the call and surged again. This time the militia's cordwood line quivered, then shattered. A knot of men bolted for the rear, only to meet dismounted troopers sweeping in from the right. Muskets clattered to the ground, hands rose, voices shouted surrender. The old captain still stood, musket across his chest. Beside him, Calder glimpsed a boy, bare-cheeked, too thin for his rifle, fumbling to load another round. The sight stuck in his chest, but then smoke rolled between, and they were gone in the blur of collapse. Byerly finally lowered his weapon, jaw working, eyes hard. One by one, his men laid down arms, sagging against the ruined rails. Some still cursed, some wept. Most just stared blankly at the ground. Morgan rode forward at last, flanked by officers. He doffed his hat toward the prisoners as though acknowledging a polite bow, not a bloody skirmish. "Gentlemen," he said loud enough for both sides, "you've given us a stout morning, but the road is ours." Calder stayed back on the fringe, away from the captives. He had no cheer for Morgan's show. His eyes searched once more through the haze, wondering if the boy by the old captain still drew breath. But smoke, dust, and surrender swallowed the answer. Moe caught his look, then shook his head. "Can't save 'em all," Calder grunted, and turned back toward the column. "We saved ourselves. That'll have to do. We didn't go out on a foolish push that accomplished little." When the breastwork finally sagged into silence, Calder pulled Moe aside. "Let's get the horses before some green hand tangles their reins." The two men slipped back through the timber, following the creek where they'd left Frog and Gypsy tied in shade. The mare nickered low when Calder whistled, ears pricked, dark hide damp from the heat. Frog stamped once and nosed Moe's hand, eager to move. Both mounts were whole, untouched by the chaos that still smoked on the pike. They swung into the saddles and turned toward the road. Horse holders were leading the rest of the mounts forward, dust gray and wide-eyed, but Calder trusted his own legs beneath him more than another man's. He patted Gypsy's neck and eased into line beside Moe. Prisoners clogged the roadside now, ragged men sitting in the grass, hats in their hands, muskets piled under guard. Calder slowed as they passed. Byerly was among them, the old captain stiff-backed even with his weapon gone. Beside him crouched the boy Calder had glimpsed earlier, face smudged black with powder, hands blistered raw. He clutched his cap like it might keep him from falling apart. Calder's gaze lingered, but he said nothing. Just a boy, and just another story swallowed by war. Moe glanced at him, but Calder kept his face straight. "Keep moving," he muttered. The column pressed on, riders forming again as Corydon's rooftops came into sight. Smoke hung over the town, not from battle, but from chimney fires and the churn of wagons. The people lined the streets, silent, eyes wide with fear or anger. Women gathered children close, shopkeepers stood in doorways, and old men shook their heads as the gray tide rolled past. Morgan rode at the front, his coat brushed clean, his voice carrying for the crowd to hear. He called his officers together and gave the order plain enough. The prisoners would be paroled. No cages, no long march south, just oaths sworn and men sent home under guard. "Better they carry the tale," Morgan said, smiling thin. "The North will hear we came, we whipped, and we let them go. A fine story, gentlemen." Some of the troopers cheered. Others just looked hungry, eyes darting toward shops and houses that smelled of bread. Calder said nothing. He shifted in the saddle, eyes still on the prisoners herded to the green. Byerly hadn't moved, and the boy beside him hadn't raised his head. The bugles called again. The column edged deeper into Corydon, boots ringing on cobblestones, banners snapping in the hot wind. Morgan's victory had the sound of a parade, but Calder felt the weight of dust and smoke clinging to his skin. Mo nudged Frog closer. "We ride with a drumbeat, but the ground still talks," he said low. Calder nodded once. The ground talked, all right, and it told him nothing in this war came free.